Welcome to another XDP Manufacturer Q&A. Today we're here with Tim from MAHLE to talk more about their engine gaskets and seals and what makes their products the right choice for your vehicle. So Tim, what is the history behind gaskets for MAHLE?
MAHLE gaskets and all gaskets really from the industry have changed dramatically in the last 25 years or so because the value and importance of sealing has become more important. So as a result, new technologies have been introduced that have made things far more reliable than they had been in the old days. So MAHLE as an organization has taken it upon themselves to use OE replacement in virtually every application that we can. Now certainly older applications are probably not as difficult to seal because the reliability just wasn't there. But today, there is no excuse for oil leaks, fuel leaks, or coolant leaks anywhere. So our OE replacement strategy has taken us down the road so customers can be satisfied with the kits that they buy.
What differentiation does MAHLE have in the gasket market compared to others in the industry?
Well, for us, I think we're different on a few different levels. Number one is that we're concerned that you have the OE replacement. So that's really critical for us. Secondly, I think which puts MAHLE ahead of the curve in virtually every single case is that we believe it's critical to put every single component that could possibly ever be needed, sometimes to a fault now, I will agree, that you could ever need to do that repair. And our strategy, our background strategy, is that we don't want whoever is servicing the vehicle to have to order again. So once you open one of our kits, you will have everything you need, whether it be head gasket, whether it be intake manifold. And I think that's a really important factor. If you're trying to use the time in that repair bay, you don't need to be calling back to the parts store to order more. So we put everything and more that you need in that kit.
What are the advantages to offering a complete set?
It eliminates the downtime for the technician to try and have to get the parts that he needs for the repair. Now we do sell individual components because there are times when you may have to only remove an isolated component for another repair. If you're going to do a major repair on the vehicle and you have to go deep inside, it's in your best interest to buy the kit. However, if that component isn't necessarily the one that is being serviced, but just merely needs to be removed, then we offer the isolated gasket so that you can put that on. You could reinstall that component and be confident of the reliability. So both have their place in the market. It really depends on the situation, and the technician's going to have to make that choice on what he believes is smart for that particular repair.
Looking at MAHLE gaskets, there are a handful of different materials used for gaskets. Can you explain a bit about the different materials and their applications?
So generally over the past, again, 25 years or so, we have seen a trend on the diesel side and on the traditional gas-powered automotive side that the multi-layer steel head gasket has moved into that space. And there's a few different reasons. One of them is because gaskets in the past with heavy cast iron blocks and heavy cast iron cylinder heads were less susceptible to a concept called bore distortion. So as gaskets have become more important to engine integrity, what they had to do was make sure that the head gasket didn't introduce some of these phenomenons. So to make it easy, on the head gasket side, you're looking for good distribution where you have 50% of that available bolt load on the combustion seal and the other 50% of that available load on the coolant and on the oil. The other thing that has moved is the use of, we'll call it elastomerics. So back in the day, you used to have basically maybe one or two options for traditional seals, where today most of the seals that you have for rotating components are made of a couple of different compounds. Most of them are very high heat that we offer in those specific applications. The other thing that you have to consider is that we now know, we knew this before, but we take more consideration that if you're sealing coolant, it could become acidic. So the compounds we use have to be able to withstand that. And on the oil side, we have to make sure that they can seal the popular synthetic lubes. The other thing that has popped out in the last probably 10 years or so is the reference would be Teflon. So the seal concept works entirely different. It is no longer a spring and elastomerics. It literally seals as heat is introduced and seals around the shaft. So the installation is extremely critical and different. A good way to tell is that there's no spring in the seal. The other area that's probably shifted and more over time is we've minimized the use of composite material for sealing applications, and we've moved more to, we'll call it a O-ring style design. So the reason this is important is because if you do not get the correct O-ring style, where they have the groove that would be in the intake manifold, or it'll be in the head, or be in a water pump application, if you don't have the math correct and that O-ring style isn't the right diameter versus the groove, you will either crush it because you have too much load applied, or you'll never apply the load. So across the breadth of engines, whether it be diesel or gas, those are probably the three biggest areas, and all of them are basically designed to offer reliability to you as the consumer. It's important to use the correct part, because one small mistake and you can end up installing a problem rather than fixing it.
MAHLE uses the phrase OE form, fit, and function to describe its gasket line. What does this mean to MAHLE?
Well, what it means to MAHLE and what it should mean to everybody, because it's really quite important, and I don't think that's ever been explained in detail. So here, most people can get the form right. So it's pretty easy to make a component that looks like this. When you just copy it for the form, you don't take in consideration any of the tolerance, which will become important when I get to the last part. So the form part is important. Now, when we get to the fit part, now I mentioned that whole, we're gonna have kind of a tolerance here for the bolt hole size and the center of this and the dimension. So because you don't know what that is, you don't know exactly where that center is. So during the machining operation or punching operation, or however you're making this in manufacturing, because you don't know where that is exactly, you're taking it off of a copy, you can inadvertently be off 2,000ths or 3,000ths. So as a result, the fit is good, but it's not right. Now the function part is where the wheels come completely off. So if you don't understand how the gasket is supposed to work, I briefly spoke about minimizing bore distortion. Well, how they do it is in many cases with this bolt load so that you don't induce all of that load in an area that you don't need it. So if you merely copy and you don't understand why these slight variations are done, you sacrifice reliability. So the function part is really important. This was all done by engineering people over time. That's how the decision was made. A variety of tools were used, so they knew that bolt load distribution was correct and didn't induce potential leaks or bore distortion or a variety of other maladies that could happen. So the form, fit, and function of OE replacement is critical to make sure that you have the reliability that you are going to depend on once you do this major installation. So gaskets are far more important than people gave them credit for.
A big thanks to Tim from MAHLE for giving us the rundown of the engine gaskets and seals. To find out more and get one for your truck, check out xdp.com or contact your local dealer.